Hello, my name is Renee Harris, and I'm the Health Science Education Specialist for the Office of Public Instruction in the Career and Technical Education Division. Thank you for joining me today as we delve into the budget sections of our Carly-Perkins e-grant application. This is, again, the main page of your screen. This is the page you're always going to come to be able to go in and out of your application. Our first webinar took you all through the end of year reports, all the pieces of that, and the second webinar talked about the main pages of the application. So now we're getting ready to figure out what you'd like to do in your budget pages. Now before you even begin your budget pages, it's a great idea to bring together all of your career and technical education teachers, or if you have designated lead people that are your CTE, oversee the CTE areas in the school, bring them together, or perhaps you even have a committee that is looking at your priorities for career and technical education. Once you know, and you'll find that out through funding, what the amount is that you have to spend, and you get all of the items from your teachers that they would like to request, now we can get into our budget pages. You're going to see once you click on budget pages, it's going to open more tabs along the bottom, and that's what I'm going to take you through each of those tabs. For right now, this number that you're going to see at the top of this is called the funding distribution page, is the 10% set aside that needs to be used for professional development. So again, Billings School District has been most gracious in allowing me to use their application as I take you through this process. So what you're going to see, this top number is only going to be your professional development number. It's not the total number for your grant. Let me explain how we are doing this. Over here where it says usage codes, this might seem quite foreign where it says R1, R2, R3, R4. That is referring back to those required and permissive uses of your grant that you did when we did the main grant. If you still are unsure about what those are, you can always click back into your application page here. I'm going to click back for you, and you can read what all of this is about. You may even want to make a copy for yourself that you can have sitting beside you as you go into the budget pages. So remember, what I'm asking you here is for your required and permissive uses. So what you can do first is start with, most of you are going to have only one school, so you don't have to do it per school in this area. The first thing you're seeing here is Category 700, and that's actually for any items that are valued at $5,000 or more. Many of you just don't have that big of a Perkins budget and aren't spending that much. So if you're a single school, you certainly don't need to put the individual school name here. What you may want to do, though, is to look at this one. I believe is going to be for their tech ed and perhaps even engineering program. And so what I'd really like you to do is tell me how many of each items you're buying, so what item it is. Now, if this piece of equipment was going to be less than $5,000, you're going to use Category 600. If you are using spending money on professional development, that's Category 500. If you're having a guest speaker come into your school, that's Category 300. We're going to go over this again when we get into the budget detail. If you are paying a salary, you need to split it between Category 100 and then benefits in Category 200. We do have a Category 800 for membership dues for your teachers that you're going to be paying. Keep in mind, you cannot pay membership dues for students, only for the teachers. Anyway, what really is nice if you tell me what program area this is going to be for. So you may not put the school down, but perhaps you can tell me whether it's going to be ag ed, business ed, family consumer science, health science, trades and industry, perhaps it's an automotive program, a tech ed program, or engineering. So if you write that here and then use this category code, these are called category code, the name of the piece of equipment, how many of them, and what the item costs. So here you could see on this next one with Vex Robotics, it's 6-seat license, but they're only buying one of those 6-seat licenses. Again, keep looking down and you'll see how all of this is coded. Let me tell you about what we're doing for these required and permissive uses. They've looked back on the required and permissive pages and determined that these pieces of equipment really fit with incorporating interdisciplinary academics and CTE. They are also looking at strengthening the workforce connection, and this is what you find in those codes. When you come over to A, B, C, D, and D, E, this refers to up here in special populations. So you have an option to decide, do you have any individuals with a disability in your school? Then select yes. This arrow is a pull-down arrow, so you can choose no, or if you're not certain, you can put in NA for not applicable. So you can certainly do that. 2 is individuals that are economically disadvantaged. 3 is individuals preparing for non-traditional fields. 4 are any single parents you might have in your school. Here they put NA, and an individual with limited English proficiency. And for this particular program in this particular school, they had NAs here. What you're going to do next is get out your calculator or pen and paper and write down all of these amounts and then give me what the total for the category is over here under amount. So the total category for this area is $33,000. Again, we have something for senior high school. So you have 3 of these categories that you can open up. Generally, most schools don't have more than 3 CTE programs, so you could put each of your CTE programs under each of these. If you're familiar with the old Perkins, which was Perkins 3, we used to not be as specific about the kinds of equipment that you're purchasing, and you could just say that you needed to update equipment in your tech ed room or your industrial trades room. But now we do need to have all of these individual items, how many you're getting, and the total cost of them. We do have a Perkins purchasing manual. You can find that on the OPI website under Programs, Career and Technical Adult Education, then Career and Technical Education Secondary, and you can get it that way, or you can contact any of the specialists in the CTE division, and we can email a copy to you so that you can know what you can and cannot purchase. All right, so this is how you basically structure your whole application. Now, with the Billings School District, as you know, they have the Career Center as well as 3 home schools, other schools. So we have a category for each of the schools so we know what they are asking for. When we get down here, this is for the Career Center. Here's for agriculture. So for instance, you will put that program name there, agriculture, category 600. That's for your minor equipment again, and you'll see the kinds of things that they're putting in here. I would like you to take into consideration that you cannot buy consumable items when you are in your Perkins application. That's what we have state vocational education money for. So a consumable in ag might be feed for livestock. In an automotive program, maybe it's oil for changing oil. If you're doing welding, it could be welding gases or welding rods. In construction, it would be lumber or nails. And in family consumer science, it would be groceries. You can't buy groceries with this kind of thing. Also in a health science program, anything that's going to be of a one-time use. I know some of you use individual workbooks for students. If it's one-time use, that really does need to be paid through your state VOED or district funds. These just give you some ideas of what they were doing. So here's agriculture. And here we're down to automotive. If your school does get indirect costs, you can only claim 5%. That's the most you can claim. Most of you already have negotiated with OPI, with the state, for a specific amount for your indirect cost. I'll show you in a minute where we're going to find that because that's going to be over on our budget detail page. But you must note any indirect costs that you're going to be charging to your Perkins application in the fund distribution section. Here's construction and what they're doing with construction. Here's some engineering costs. They do have a health science biomedical science program. And so you'll see some of their category 500 professional development items are in here. And these you really should have the teacher figure out what the registration is for the conference, how much their travel expenses will be, whether they're driving there, whether they're flying there, if they need a shuttle to get from the airport to the conference. The only thing you cannot, and you can also put in your lodging fees or your annual membership, but you cannot pay for food, any food that's not being served at the conference through your Perkins. You'll have to use your state VOED money for that. Anyway, you've got the categories here. When you get down to the end of these, and I know this is a long one, you have the option to create new categories if you would like. You're going to have the total amount of your proposed expenditures. Okay, so we have the total amount here of what they've put in each of these categories. For larger schools, I know this is a little bit cumbersome, and you may even want to do a budget detail spreadsheet and send it to your specialist assigned to your school ahead of time to review. I usually go through each of these and add up each of the categories. You can come to fund comparison, and that's going to check to see if your budget detail page actually has the same number as your funding distribution page. Okay, we're going to, before we go to budget detail, there's one more thing here. If you are indeed spending $5,000 or more on a single piece of equipment, please come over here to Property and Equipment, click on Property and Equipment, and write all the items, the quantity, and how much each of the unit costs, and it will automatically calculate whatever multiples you need to have in here. The reason I wanted to show you this is because in category 700, all these items are in category 700. If you do choose to spend money in category 700, this is major equipment, that amount is going to be deducted from your total, and you can only claim indirect costs, that's administrative costs, on the net of the total. So let's come over here to budget detail, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. These are our categories, and I'll explain them again and how you're going to get there. But if you look down here, the total allocation for billings, the entire school district was here. Remember we talked about the object 700, that was in their property and equipment. That is now deducted, and their allowable direct costs will be taken on this $148,000 number, not the total 304. Their indirect cost rate is 4.25. This system will automatically calculate that for you, and so this is the amount that can be claimed by billing school district for their administrative costs. Once we know what this is, now you can put this total, the $155,354, in category 700. So this is called your budget detail page, and I wanted to show you your checklist page after this too, so you can see if someone writes back to you how to get back to these pages to look at if there's any discrepancies. Instruction is what you're going to choose. These are pull downs here, so there's an arrow so you can pull each of these down. This is 10 instruction. If you're paying for substitute teachers so that your teachers can do some professional development, you can put that under instruction. You can also, if you are offering teacher stipends, you can pay for it there. If you're paying professional development stipends, you can put it under professional development. If you have someone coming in to do a training, it's going to go under category 300. Again, instruction, they're coming in for training. 600 is your minor equipment. It's just called supplies, but this is minor equipment. and then 700 is your major equipment. Category 800 is any of those professional dues that you are going to pay for your career and technical education teachers. You'll also see under professional development that there's another $28,305 that were assigned. I know category 500 just says other purchase services, but please make a note, a mental note, or write it down that this is the category you want to use for your professional development most of the time. If your teachers are traveling, if they're going to a conference, you're paying registration, lodging, transportation, it goes here. If for any reason you're going to transport your students to go to a two-year college, if you're transporting them to see other business and industry projects going on, you can certainly use the pupil transportation code 27, and you're going to put that under category 500. So that's another thing that goes under category 500, but that's under pupil transportation. School and community support is another category. If you have someone that's going to come in and work with your counselors as well as your teachers and your business and industry partners, that might go under school and community support, and you can put it here. I hope this is making sense to you. I know that I'm talking rather quickly as we move through these categories. So please keep in mind if you need any help on deciding what category to put anything under, please give us a call, any one of the specialists in the CTE division, and we can help you out with this. Once you have this filled in, any of the gray areas automatically will fill, and it'll give you these numbers over here so you can see that they match. You're going to have two buttons at the bottom. One of these is calculate totals, and then you also will have a save page button. So you always want to calculate your totals, and this is going to tell you whether everything is added up appropriately here. And then you're going to save the page. So we've gone through funding distribution, we've gone through budget detail, we've looked at the funding comparison, and we've looked at property and equipment. The budget summary really isn't going to give you much information other than what categories you're putting things in and then breaking it out by percentage on how you're spending the money. Basically, you're going to use the funding distribution, budget detail, and if you're spending more than $5,000 or more, you'll be over here in property and equipment. So if you'll bear with me for a minute, I'm going to actually return to the organization and select what the checklist looks like so that if we are responding back to you, you will receive this as an email checklist, and I want to tell you how to read it or decipher what we're talking about. All right, so we're going to do an application review for billings. Again, I'm in the original application, and I'm going to review summary and review checklist, because I want to show you what the checklist looks like. This is what you're going to get when you, through your email, to let you know that your e-grant has been approved or not approved. So we're looking to see if the end of year report was adequately completed. If it is not, we will check this box and another box can open so we can fill the categories in. Are the required uses of funds adequately answered? So remember, we talked about that in the main part of the grant, required and permissive uses, as well as on the funding distribution page. You just had to write R1, R2, R3. Our special population questions adequately answered. Again, that was talked about in our main portion of the grant. Is at least one approved Big Sky pathway on file? This year, and probably this year only, you may see a no answer here, and our comment to you is that you're going to have a certain amount of time before the application can be approved. I know some of you were working with colleges that did not participate with Big Sky Pathways this year, and we will not hold you accountable on that level, but we will try to set you up with another college, or possibly that same college will work with you again. If the answer is no here, though, you can always talk with one of the specialists, and we can give you more information about what Big Sky Pathway needs to be renewed, or perhaps you don't have any on file, and we'll visit with you about that. Is the local improvement plan on file for all performance indicators? Okay, we did that in the main webinar, on the main section of the grant, where we went into performance and accountability data, where you chose yes or no whether you met the state negotiated levels. They all have to be checked. You can't just pass by them. If you're a very small school and you're missing an indicator, say on non-traditional completer, it simply could be that you don't offer that many classes in a particular sequence to be able to have concentrators in that area. So if you've got any question at all, please do feel free to call us and talk about that. We're going to ask you about the proposed expenditures. If they are not clear and adequately answered, that they're matching the pages, the funding distribution, as well as the budget detail page, then we'll check no, and we'll fill this out and explain to you what we have questions on. The last one here is the application approvable? So we're going to either say yes or no. If we say no, we'll check this box and we'll fill it in and let you know why it's not approvable. That just means the application is now sent back to your school, your LEA, for you to kind of open the grant again and make some changes where necessary. I hope that has given you a good run through of all the different pieces of the Perkins application. Thank you for your time today. Thank you for listening.